one song in particular that was brought to me after, in the second workshop that we did, was my first introduction to who Francesca would become for me, and that was To Build a Home. I had never been presented with a piece of music that I knew that I would feel better than I've ever felt in my life singing it. It was immediate. I couldn't believe it when I heard it.
To Build a Home was actually written after the whole rest of the first act had been done. I had a couple of ideas for an opening number, but none of them were really great, and I knew that. But we just sort of put them out there anyway, and just tried them, and tried to find my way to what the opening would be, and tried to understand what the show really was. And it was Bart who suggested that the whole look of the show should be very much Thornton Wilder in terms of being very suggested as opposed to realistic. And I liked the idea of watching Francesca build the life around her. I thought there was some great theatrical way to do it. And so simply from that theatrical metaphor, the song came out, which was the idea of building a home. The part that the choir sings, the da, 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 I had discovered that when I was working on Look at Me, which we'll hear later. But the opening cello bit was actually the first thing that came to me when I started working on this piece, when I started working on this song. And so it was actually fairly late in the development of the show to come up with what became the central motivic element. But once I had discovered the cello, I knew that was Francesca's sound, that was her instrument. And so I then let that lead me through the rest of the piece, and I integrated it into places where it hadn't been before, just to make sure that it sort of it kept threading through the piece organically.
And in turn, that cello sound became my sound. I really loved embracing the lower part of my voice, speaking and singing, because I felt very much that was my voice, that cello. You know, walking down the stage for the very first entrance to start a show can be one of the most nerve-wracking things. Might have been one of the most nerve-wracking things I've ever done in my life. But when you're singing in a way that you don't have to think about as much, there's no what I call road mapping or overthinking the kind of placement of things in a technical way. When it's absolutely emotional and free-flowing, the only nerves that happen, right upon just entering the stage, disappear immediately when the emotion comes in of singing it and what the song is about. And I found that every show. I found that once I started, the motor started, the train started, I just kind of stepped on and it took off. And that's a joy. That's an absolute, it doesn't always happen.
No, but it was also part of the benefit of knowing Kelly's voice in this role so well by the time I wrote the song, because by that point we had already done several readings, and so I knew what she was going to sound like and what the accent was going to sound like and where her voice lived most comfortably, and so I could build the song entirely on the best places in her tessitura.
Absolutely. In fact, you skipped parts of the voice that I really would rather not use in such a beautiful way. It's either low or high, and that's how I prefer.